Hello and welcome to Cup of Cosmology, the place for all your questions about the universe. My name is Diana Hooper, Charlie to friends, and I'm a postdoctoral researcher currently based in the University of Helsinki in Helsinki, Finland. And I'm a cosmologist, so that means that I study the universe, the contents of the universe, how things evolve, how things interact, cool stuff happening inside the universe. I love being a scientist. I love getting to study these cool things happening inside the universe. And I love chatting to everybody about all of the cool things I get to work on. And this is what Cup of Cosmology is for. This is my place where I have an audience. I was going to say an audience that can escape. I mean, you can leave at any point. But here is where I get to chat to everybody about all of the cool stuff I get to work on. So for anyone who doesn't yet know, Cup of Cosmology is an interactive stream. The idea here is that you people can ask me anything you want, and I will do my best to try to answer. You can ask me about physics, about cosmology, about space, about anything you want, about academia, about Finland, about my cats, and I will do my best to answer your questions. Now, of course, I don't always have all of the answers, but I will do my best to answer your questions. And before we jump into the special topic of the day, let's say hello to some people here. I see we have a bunch of the regulars coming in. Scott, Prath, Meat Dog, great to see you. Nina, David Howden, great to see you as well. And of course, Lucas, great to see you here as well. Lots of regulars coming in, some first-time viewers. However long you've been here, welcome. It's great to have all of you here. And I see people already saying happy anniversary. So, as you've already seen from the title, and I've announced it recently, today or this week, Cup of Cosmology turned 10 years old. It has been 10 years since I did my first live stream, and I did not expect to be here. I did not expect Cup of Cosmology to still be going on 10 years later. I started these streams as a master's student. These live streams have seen me through my master's, my PhD, my first postdoc, my second postdoc. These live streams have outlived 2 relationships and 3 country moves, and God knows how many life changes. And here, 10 years later, we can celebrate 10 years of Cup of Cosmology. So to celebrate, we're just going to do a special stream today where the topic is Cup of Cosmology. It's going to be a meta stream talking about myself, talking about the show, talking about where we've been, where we're going, and how we got to where we are. So, of course, these 10 years of Cup of Cosmology would not have happened without everyone who tunes in every week with questions, with comments, with opinions, with thoughts, with just discussions. You know, Cup of Cosmology is still going because you all show me that you're still interested in this. And that is why I keep doing it. The day you all turn up with, we have no more questions, you've explained everything, I guess I'll have to stop doing it. But there's always people with questions, which means Cup of Cosmology still has a purpose to exist. And that is very, very cool. I'm so happy that we're here after 10 years, still doing this, still chatting about cosmology. So we're going to do a bit of a recap stream today, kind of reviewing some of the history of the show. And also I have some clips of old shows. So Cup of Cosmology has changed home multiple times. Initially, I was on Periscope, then I was on Haps, then I settled on YouTube via Restream, so it also goes out to Twitch. So, you know, Cup of Cosmology has been on many different homes, many different places. And that means that YouTube, where most of the videos are hosted, only has the last 4 years of the show. And there's all the previous years that are not on YouTube. And I have some of these older streams. Not all of them. I discovered that I have a 4-year gap in my stream database. I thought I had a recording of every single stream I've ever done. I don't. I have the first 4 years, and I have the last. Well, I have the first 3 years, and then I have the last 3 years, 4 years, and there's like a 4-year gap in the middle. It's kind of like the BBC archived lost footage. There's lost footage of Cup of Cosmology. I have no idea where those streams are. I checked both hard drives, and there's just a 4-year gap in my live streams on both hard drives. No idea what happened there, but I do have clips from the very early live streams, from the very first ones, and some throughout the 10 years apart from that gap. So I have prepared a video with some highlights, some memories that we're going to go through. And of course, this is terrible for me because it meant I had to watch streams, like recordings of myself 10 years ago, and nobody likes watching recordings of themselves. But anyway, we're going to do that, and you're all going to get to see my live reactions to these videos as well. It has indeed been an amazing 10 years. So for anyone who's been here for a while, or even if you're a first-time viewer, however long you've been here, let me know in the comments how long you've been around, when you joined. Did you join back in the Periscope days on Twitter? Did you join in the Haps days? Are you around for the YouTube Twitch days? Let me know in the comments how long you've been around and when you first remember tuning into Cup of Cosmology. See, we had a comment from David Howden here. You can't stop. Well, thank you for stopping by to say hello. This is, of course, the time I will finally reveal that the CMB is actually the pattern of scales on all the space dragons, indeed. If in doubt, if you don't know what to blame in cosmology, blame space dragons. That's become a running joke on the show, that if in doubt, everything is blamed on space dragons. So yes, indeed, there will be no space dragons today, but there will be plenty of CMB appearances. The cosmic microwave background radiation, this thing here, as you'll know, my favorite thing in the universe, with my recently acquired, definitely legally acquired beach ball of the CMB, which will appear. What's the over-under on a clip from Periscope where a Turkish guy says something pervy? Yeah, the Periscope days had a lot of trolls and a lot of people with weird comments. And, it didn't just stop in the live streams. I was getting a lot of those comments in my DMs as well. The Periscope days were definitely in need of more moderation. I'm glad that Haps and YouTube has been better in that regard. But yeah, it's the Periscope days were definitely very troll heavy. That is true. But it's calmed down now. And now I basically have a zero tolerance policy for trolls and people making inappropriate comments. Like, at the first sign of that, it's just going around. It's just immediate block. I do not entertain trolls these days. It is not worth my time. Does it count being around your science before a Cup of Cosmology was created? Love the question, nuanced question, because technically, I need to add a caveat. When I say Cup of Cosmology turns 10 years old, that is technically not correct, because my live streams turn 10 years old. But for the first 6 years, my live streams didn't have a name. The show didn't have a name. I was just like, welcome to my ramblings about the universe. Great to have you all here. And it wasn't until I made the switch to YouTube that I realized I should actually have a kind of branding, a name, a logo that I can put on shirts and have all of a Cup of Cosmology branding. So technically, Cup of Cosmology is 4 years old, but the live streams are 10 years old. So I'm counting the entirety of the live streams because, and we're going to get into this in a minute, but the live streams were initially connected to a blog that was called Cup of Cosmology. So technically, the Cup of Cosmology name has also been around for 10 years. Comment from Mito, you found Cup of Cosmology and me from the iTelescope webinars about 3 or 4 years ago. That is amazing. So iTelescope is a collaboration of international astronomers. And I know one of the people who organizes it, and a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, they started doing a series of webinars where they would get experts to come and talk about cosmology. And I helped kickstart that series by giving one of the first seminars. And I think by now they get me back every year. Every year I do a night telescope webinar. And it's like a 1.5 hour lecture about a topic and then a 1.5 hour Q&A session. And I think I've done 4 of them by now. 4 or 5? 4 iTelescope ones. It's yeah, if you don't know iTelescope, check out their YouTube channel. They have the iTelescope webinars, and there you can find a bunch of videos of experts talking about very cool stuff. And there's 4 videos of mine there as well, which is always fun. Nice to know you came over from the iTelescope videos. A comment from Scott, nothing against Turkey, I should hope so. But if a guy says something weird, yeah, the Periscope days, honestly, there were weirdos from everywhere. It wasn't country specific. There were weirdos from everywhere in the Periscope days. So comment from Ange, cool shirt, where can we buy merch? That is a great question. I have thought many times about doing merch, especially because I have the cool logo that Sanya Hiba designed for me, a friend of mine. This logo was designed by her. And I have the cool logo. So I've thought many times about doing a merch store. Just never got round to it. I feel like I don't have the energy or the time to make a merch store, but I have had many people request it. So at some point there should be kind of Cup of Cosmology shirts and stickers and stuff like that. But yeah, it's something I should think about doing. This shirt is a unique thing. I have it. There's none others as far as I know. Or unless someone wants to print it and put it on a shirt, just let me know if you do. But yeah, I made this shirt specifically to advertise the show. However, it's kind of a terrible fit, and the logo, as you can see, is starting to like go bad. And this did not get that many uses. I was not happy with the printing shop. But yes, I need to do this. I need to do this properly. I need to actually make shirts and proper merch. There was many years ago, and we're going to get into that at some point. There was that is the wrong mug. Many years ago, there was this merch as well, the Cup of Cosmology original mug that still had the old web page. This is back when I was using Blogspot. It's no longer the correct email, the correct web page. Has a CMB on it, has the word science on it. There was one other person in the world who has this mug because back in the days when I was running a brain teaser competition as part of Cup of Cosmology, after 35 weeks of brain teasers, the winner of the brain teaser competition got one of these mugs. So there are 2 Cup of Cosmology mugs in existence and 1 shirt. But the plan at some point is to make stickers because I need Cup of Cosmology stickers, definitely. Okay, coming from Prathi, I don't even remember exactly how I found you. Either Dr. Becky or Heloise Devance retweeted your Periscope stream. Yeah, I believe that was Heloise. I mean, I think Becky did as well, but Heloise was actually a guest on the show at some point. And that was probably 2018, around then. And I had Dr. Heloise come on to talk about stars and astrophysics. Yeah, that might be when you joined Prath. So I would say 2018, 2019, kind of time-wise. Ben, you were around in the Periscope days, indeed. I remember you were around in the Periscope days. Yeah, nice to have someone back from the old days. Not your peak Periscope time since you were already on YouTube. I was already on YouTube. Okay, then at no point was I simultaneously on YouTube and Periscope because there was a gap. So if it was still in the Periscope days and maybe already on HAPS, then it would be 2021, I believe. So yes, the brain teasers were indeed very fun. I have many good memories of the brain teasers, and I'll get into that as well in a minute. But just some general stats for people, some general idea of how long we've been around. So if I've counted correctly, which I probably have not counted correctly, but if I have counted correctly, this is my 360th live stream. So 360 live streams over the span of 10 years. Cup of Cosmology initially was supposed to be weekly. That doesn't always happen because life gets in the way. I think the year where I did the fewest streams was 2020 for obvious reasons. You know, the world was in flames, quite literally at times. 2020, I think I did 7 streams and that was the lowest. But otherwise, Cup of Cosmology has been going pretty consistently since August 2015. We're now at 360 plus minus 5 or 10, you know, approximately 360 if I've counted properly. In that time, so in 2015, I started on Periscope. Periscope was attached to Twitter, so all of my live streams were automatically on Twitter, which was both very good and very bad. Then in 2021, Periscope closed down and I moved to HAPS. HAPS was great. We had an amazing community on HAPS. A lot of interactions, it was just a really nice platform. And it's a platform where I started doing things more professionally. As you'll see in the old clips at some point, these streams were literally me with a camera propped up on a stand, and any images were shown up projected onto a laptop screen. Yeah, so fun times. But HAPS is where I started actually getting the professional look and having things up on screen. And then HAPS lasted for 1 year. Amazing platform, lasted for 1 year because they had no idea how to actually properly monetize the platform. And then it closed in 2022, and that's when I settled on YouTube, going out to Twitch as well. Although I have to admit, I do neglect the Twitch streams because I favor the YouTube ones generally. So 360 streams. In that time, I've had over 60 guests on the show, ranging from other cosmologists to musicians to people in different fields. I've occasionally branched out and done streams with people in biology, for example, just to get connections to other fields of research. So it's been fun to branch out, to have so many guests. Since moving to Helsinki in 2021, I've had a lot of guests from Helsinki. There is a playlist on the YouTube channel called Research in Helsinki, and all of that is streams featuring someone else from my office or from the broader group discussing what we work on here in Helsinki. There is also a playlist on my channel called Highlights, and when I do a stream that I think is really good or really fun or a very cool topic, it gets moved to the highlights, and I'm very selective with what goes on the highlights. I think there's only 20. So if you're new to Cup of Cosmology and you don't know where to start, the highlights is the place to start. That is absolutely the place to start. And among all of these 360 streams, the question is, how many times has the infamous, not this one, how many times has my favorite image appeared? This one here, the CMB, the cosmic microwave background radiation, oldest light in the universe, snapshot of what the universe looked like 380,000 years after the end of inflation, and my absolute favorite thing in cosmology, tied, favorite, almost favorite, tied with gravitational waves. How many times has this image appeared? No idea. I'm sure we've all lost count by now. But as you know, this map needs to appear at least one time per stream. It is like the contractual obligation of someone who loves the CMB. But that is why I have it on a mug, I have it on my beach balloon, and it's in the Cup of Cosmology logo. It's everywhere. You can't escape the CMB. Right, so Beth, you're saying Periscope was gone, but I was still live on Twitter. So that would be when I was transitioning from HAPS to YouTube. So kind of around 2021, 2022. Nina, you're thinking of traveling to Helsinki next year. That would be amazing. Let me know. Let me know. If you're in town, we definitely need to meet up. Just let me know when you're around. Okay, yeah, the CMB has definitely appeared over 1,000 times, indeed. Okay, so we're going to do a bit of a historical tour of Cup of Cosmology, and as always, jump in with comments and questions, ramble away in the chat. This is not just me monologuing. I mean, it is, because you can't actually shout at me. So in a sense, this is me monologuing, but I do try to read all the comments. So, let me know your thoughts, leave a message in the comments. And in the meantime, we're going to take a trip down memory lane and go back to 2015, when I was halfway through my master's thesis, or halfway through my master's degree, and I was thinking of how I could do science outreach. I've done a lot of different types of science outreach in the past. I was a founding member of an astronomy group in Barcelona, where we actually took our telescopes out and showed people stuff with the telescope, which is so much fun. So I was thinking how I could get into doing more outreach and what was the best platform for it. And the reason I wanted to do outreach, to talk to people about science, is because I felt like there was often a divide. There was often an idea of scientists being these weird, crazy geniuses, unapproachable. And it feels often that there is this mentality of us and them, us normal people, those weird, crazy scientists, which is not at all helped by shows like The Big Bang Theory and others, who always depict scientists as being these crazy, unapproachable lone geniuses with variously lacking social skills. This is an idea that I don't think is completely fair. I mean, sometimes it is, but I don't think it's completely fair. It's also, I think I've heard a lot of people say to me over the years that science is not for me. I'm glad you do science, but science is not for me. I'm not smart enough for that. And I think that is absolutely incorrect. Science is for everyone. Science is weird, it's complicated, it's confusing, it's a mess, it's headache inducing, but science is understandable. And to me, when someone says science is not for me, I could never do that. What I think is this person has never had the opportunity to do science in a fun way. And this was the idea behind Cup of Cosmology. If I could show people that scientists are not weird, crazy geniuses, we're just normal people doing random things, making mistakes, messing up, trying to figure out life. We just happen to have had the privilege, the opportunities, the luck to be trained in a highly niche and highly specialized topic, which means we're very, very good at one thing. Doesn't necessarily mean scientists are good at everything. It means we're very good at the one thing we've been trained for, the very niche topic we've been trained for. And I think science is for everyone. Science is understandable, science is fun. And if you're curious about the world around you, congratulations, you're thinking like a scientist. So the point of Cup of Cosmology was to demystify science and to demystify the whole scientific process and scientists in general. So I was trying to figure out how to do this. And I randomly downloaded an app for live streaming, which was called Periscope. Now, the reason I actually downloaded it is because a podcaster I listened to, actually, a podcaster my then partner listened to, because I'm not a podcast person, mentioned going live on this app. So I downloaded it and I was browsing Periscope. Like, this is Not for me. There is nothing on this app for me. I was clicking the random button, and then I came across a live stream by Ian McLaughlin, a neuroscientist at the time, who had a stream with the title, "I'm a neuroscientist, ask me anything about the brain." And I was like, that is amazing. That is so cool. And I watched that on Periscope, and then I realized there were about 4 or 5 other scientists on Periscope doing exactly the same, also using the Periscope platform to do science outreach and to talk to people about science. So back in August 2015, I decided, why not? Why not try it out? And so I did my first ever live, and I was terrified, and it was a mess, and it was utter chaos, to the point that I deleted that recording. But then I decided, this is fun. Let's do it again, and again, and again. And 10 years later, we're still here. So there is a slight inconsistency in the timeline. Now, as some of you might remember, 3 years ago, I did a 7-year special of Cup of Cosmology. And in that 7-year anniversary special, I advertised that the first live stream I ever did was the 30th of August. However, that is not correct. As you can see now, we're not yet 30th of August. The first live stream I ever did was actually the 14th of August, 2015. But I was not happy with it, and I deleted the recording immediately afterwards. I took 2 weeks to kind of figure things out, and then I started again. So while the first one there's a record of is the 30th of August, there was the one 2 weeks previously on the 14th. But I have clips from the very first live stream I ever did from the second live stream I ever did, because as I said, I deleted the first one. But I have a clip from the second one I ever did on the 30th of August, 2015. We're going to play that clip. Let me just get to the comments here. Comment from Ben. Found a response from you regarding 6 blue-eyed monkeys in May 2016. That counts as communication, and so it breaks the rules. Right. Yes. So that was one of the brain teasers. So yeah, Ben, you've been around here since 2016. I can currently not remember the 6 blue-eyed monks. Right. Yes, I remember that brain teaser now. Yes, indeed. I'll come back to the brain teasers in a minute, but yes, that was. So Ben, you've been around since 2016-ish. Yes. Nice. Okay. So I'm going to play a video from my first stream. Actually, I'm going to play 2 clips. No, I'm going to play one, then we're going to stop, then we're going to play the second one. So here's a clip from the second stream I ever did, 30th of August, 2015. Let me know if you can hear it. If you can't hear it, please do let me know, and then I need to figure out why you can't hear it. Hopefully you're going to be able to hear this. Okay. So at this point, if the electrons are interacting with the protons and forming atoms, then the photons, so these light particles, have nothing to do. So at this point, they decouple. And this is what is known as the second decoupling, or the recombination, because it's recombination because the electrons are recombining with the protons, but it's decoupling because the photons are leaving the electrons. And these photons just start permeating space. So these photons is what is known as the cosmic microwave background. I'm not sure if you can see my posters up there. That is the cosmic microwave background. I'll show you another photo in a sec. So what this is photons released 380,000 years after the Big Bang. And these photons are just moving freely. So they're everywhere in space. Okay, so thank you for the comment, Nina, that you could hear the audio. I know it's quite low because I was shouting into a tablet that was propped up against a little old tripod thing. And the audio was terrible at the time. And I tried to increase it post-processing, like today when I was putting this video together, and then it just got mushy and it was not intelligible. So audio is low, unfortunately, on the video. So yeah, that is a clip from 10 years ago. I have complaints. I have many complaints about this clip. So in case you missed it there, because of the way I was talking about things, that was the first time I ever spoke about the CMB, the cosmic microwave background radiation. That was the first time I ever spoke about it on a live stream. Now, one of the ideas behind Cup of Cosmology is it should be jargon-free. This is written in the principles of Cup of Cosmology on the Cup of Cosmology webpage. That clip was not jargon-free. Why am I using words like permeate and decoupling and recombination? That is not how you explain the CMB. It was a good attempt, but that is not how we explain the CMB. But I was very amused that in the very first video that I found, like my very first live stream, there was this clip where I was talking about the CMB. Now, of course, if I was to explain that today, the way I explain it today is the CMB, the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is the oldest light we can see in the universe. This is a snapshot of what the universe looked like 380,000 years after the end of inflation. So at that time in the history of the universe, there are three main components. Dark matter is doing its own thing. There are three main components: protons, electrons, and photons, particles of light. Because the universe is very, very hot, very energetic, all of these particles are constantly interacting. The protons and the photons and the electrons keep bumping into each other. As the universe cooled down, the protons and the electrons could combine together to form the first hydrogen atoms in the universe. And at this point, the photons can no longer interact with the protons and electrons, so they break away and start traveling freely in the universe. They have been traveling freely ever since, and today they make up the cosmic microwave background radiation. So these are photons everywhere you look in the universe, behind everything else. And on their path towards us, they've lost different amounts of energy depending on how long it took them to break away from the protons and the electrons. This is what we see today as tiny, tiny, tiny temperature differences. So in this map here, you can see the slightly warmer spots in orange, slightly colder spots in blue. And this tells us which photons were more or less energetic. These photons, by measuring the blue spots and the orange spots, the statistical properties of how many blue spots, how many orange spots there are, we can figure out things like the ingredients of the universe, the age of the universe, the size of the universe, the shape of the universe, when the first stars turned on. So this is one of the biggest pieces of information we have about the universe 380,000 years after the end of inflation, which puts it about 14 billion years ago today. So that is how I would explain that today. That is how I would explain it today. I would not be using words like they permeate space-time. It's decoupling. It's a second recombination. No, it was a good attempt past me, but I think it's a good way of showing how far I've come, because that was a good first attempt. Oh, that is still very hot. Problem with this cup of Cosmology mug is it retains the temperature for ages, and I made that tea 30 minutes ago and it is still too hot. Okay, so 2015, my first live stream, or my second live stream, the first one I have a record of. Yeah, I want to play a second clip from the same live stream. What am I talking about in the second clip? Why am I showing the second clip? I need to check my notes. Right, yes, the second clip. Question that I've had since then that I still get today. We're gonna listen to a second clip, and now I do have to apologize for something with the video here, because I made a nice 10-minute video, and what I expected is that when I click back to me and then back to the video, it would remember where I am. That's not the case. It keeps going back to the beginning. So I'm just going to immediately have to pause it and find the right place. But I want to show you a second clip from the same stream because I think it's funny. So let's go back to the same live stream. But yes, Scott is saying here, neutrons came later. Yes, neutrons came later. First we had the protons and the electrons. So the neutrons were kind of there as well, but they did appear in this process later. Okay, let's go find the second clip of this thing, and it's just going to take a second to get there. Yeah. Okay. Let's see if I can find exactly where I want to go to here. Here we go. Second clip from the same stream. Pluto is a planet, yeah. I think the fact that, I'm just going to take a slight divergence here and talk about Pluto. I think the fact that Pluto is not a planet is actually one of the best proofs of how science works. Because we thought Pluto was a planet. We were sure it was. It's like, hey, Pluto's a ninth planet. Everybody was happy. And then we realised we were wrong. We invented a better telescope, we looked at it properly and said, hey, actually, it's not big enough to be a planet. And it would have been really easy for scientists to say, you know, let's just say it's a planet because we like it. But instead, scientists accepted they were wrong. They admitted, hey, look, we made a mistake, science isn't perfect, and they changed it, and they said Pluto is no longer a planet. And I think that was the best thing they could do. Because it was either that or change the whole definition of planet and accept that Pluto is a planet, and then you accept other things. So I think that's the first time I ranted about Pluto being demoted and how it was justified. And I got a lot of people complain about that because a lot of people have some affection for Pluto, and me saying it doesn't deserve to be a planet is apparently a way to upset people. I stand by that statement. Pluto is not a planet. It cannot be a planet, unfortunately. Pluto is not a planet. Okay, so first live stream, 2015. That was a fun time. Then I'm going to fast forward like 3 months because at some point I started doing the live streams instead of from home, or I was mixing. I was doing them from home and I was doing them from the office. And that's when I started opening the live streams by saying, I work at the TTK, the Institute for Theoretical Particle Physics and Cosmology, which in German is something like Theoretische Physik und Kosmologie, something weird like that, Teilchenphysik. There's some weird name that abbreviated to TTK, and I'd introduce the streams always with, I'm at the RWTH Aachen University in the Institute for Theoretical Particle Physics and Cosmology, and there was just such a so difficult to get out. So years later, I'm just like, yeah, TTK for short, because please don't make me say that. So I'm going to show a clip from the TTK days. Hey, David Dunn, great to see you. Someone who has been around for many years. I can't remember when I first met you, David Dunn, but you've definitely been here for at least 6 years, I would say. Definitely in the HAPS days, I think already in the Periscope days. There's a very interesting question here from Prath of what's something you spoke about in those days that has been disproven now? That's very interesting. I'm not sure if there's been things that have been disproven in the last 10 years, but there are things that we've got a lot more evidence about. For an example, one thing that we did kind of find and prove, which I'll get to very soon, are gravitational waves. The existence of gravitational waves, the first measurement of gravitational waves, and that ruled out many models of modified gravity. So the idea that maybe instead of things like dark matter and dark energy in the universe, you can modify the laws of gravity or our understanding of the laws of gravity. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your point of view, this is something that was then kind of less favored once we got more data, specifically gravitational wave data. Also, I think I talked often on my streams about the topic I was working on during my master thesis, which was a weird type of inflation. So we believe when the universe was in its infancy, it went through a period of exponential growth, which we call inflation. And there's a lot about the physics of inflation that isn't well known. And I was working on a specific model of inflation in my master's program, my master's thesis. But that specific model of inflation that I was working on was actually disproven by the cosmic microwave background data that came out in 2018. And the fun thing is, the data came out in 2018 publicly, but we already had the data beforehand, and I was working on the Planck data before it was released. I managed to get involved in the Planck data. So the model of inflation that I was working on in my master's, I then analyzed with the latest Planck data, and I kind of killed that model. I ruled out that model. So then in the Planck paper on inflation, Planck was the satellite that measured the cosmic microwave background radiation. In that paper, I have a statement kind of saying like this model of inflation is ruled out, which also meant I could no longer publish the results of my master thesis, because my master thesis was all about how to study this model. And then I co-signed a paper saying that model actually doesn't exist. So that's the reason my master thesis never became a paper or a publication, because I killed the model that I was working on, which was fun. So that's something that I talked about in my early Periscope days or my early stream days, which is not true anymore. Yeah, you remember I had a special stream when they detected gravitational waves. That is coming up very soon. That clip is going to feature. Yo, you remember the Periscope days? Yeah, you've been around for a long time as well. Great to still have you here after 10 years. And yeah, David Dunn, 10 years of Cup of Cosmology. Wow, I honestly can't believe it either. It kind of snuck up on me, to be honest. Like 2 weeks ago, I was like, wait, oh my God, it's 10 years. Huh. Okay, so I want to play a clip from the TTK days. In this one, I am rambling about wormholes because it's always a fun topic. Also, one of the reasons you're getting to see all of these clips is because I feel like my hair is not consistent from one stream to the next. And looking back, I've been finding the most absurd hairstyles where I'm like, oh my God, who is this person? Anyway, we're going to go to the third clip, which is from a stream I did on the 6th of December 2015. So at this point, I was 3 months into live streaming. I was kind of getting a bit more confident with the live streaming. So I was talking about different, more fun topics. So let's see if I can find this clip. And again, there's just going to be a slight delay while I locate the clip. Because of the way this app doesn't let me retain the memory of where I paused the video. Okay, so we want to go to this point here. Now, the problem with interstellar travel and wormholes is that wormholes, we're not sure if they really exist or not. So wormholes are purely hypothetical idea. And the idea is if you have space-time and you have 2 points separated a certain distance, then what you do is you bend space-time together. And then a wormhole is like cheating because it's a shortcut from point A to point B without going the long way around. But we're not actually sure if wormholes exist or not, because wormholes mathematically solve all the general relativity equations, but physically it's not something that's viable. It's not something that would be a good solution. So that's the problem sometimes, that we have mathematical equations and you can plug in mathematical solutions, but that has to equate to a physical solution. And the case of wormholes is something that is purely mathematical, and we have no reason to believe it's a physical object. So if wormholes existed, if we could stabilize them, if we could travel through them and find them and study all the effects, it could hypothetically be a good way of traveling. However, like I said, we're still not sure if they exist, and if they exist in what state, and what would happen if you went in. Because it's a purely hypothetical object that we have no evidence to back up, it's something that is best left to the realm of science fiction. Okay, so I stand by that explanation of wormholes. I think that was actually a pretty decent explanation. Yeah, I see a lot of comments there about long-haired Diana. Yeah, it's kind of a shock, isn't it? Like since around 2017, I've been keeping my hair mostly short or shoulder length at most. But before then, at some point, my hair was like waist length. I am so glad I put that behind me. Long hair is not my thing. And if you think long hair is shocking, wait until I get to the clip where I am blonde. Which, God knows why I thought that was a good idea. But anyway, that's coming up. Yes. Some comments here. On Periscope, people kept asking you about cosmology. Yeah, that honestly still happens, because I understand, right? Not everyone is familiar with the word cosmology. People often talk about astrophysicists or theoretical physicists, and for a long time on my live streams, I would introduce myself as an astrophysicist, because cosmology, the study of the universe, it's a word that is not in everybody's vocabulary. And then there's the bias that if you see a woman doing a live stream, you might more likely assume that she's doing something more beauty related than science related. It's a prejudice a lot of people have. So I would frequently get people ask, if I put the title of I'm a cosmologist, I would get people asking makeup questions like, oh, are you a cosmetologist? I'm like, do I look like I wear makeup? I put makeup on for Pride Week, and it was the first time I put makeup on in 10 years. And yeah, you do not want my advice on makeup, because my advice on makeup is don't. Or, do if it makes you happy, but I would have no idea how to do it. There's a fun thing, digression, because when don't I go on digressions? When I was at a Pride picnic, I had some glitter makeup that I was sharing with people. And a couple of people misunderstood and thought I was like the glam station and was offering to do it. And they asked if I could do their makeup. And I was like, hell no, I can give you my glitter makeup and I can tell you how I did mine, but no. A comment from Scott. You were here in the first week. I believe you were actually, Scott. You were definitely around in the Periscope days. I'm not sure how early you joined, but you were definitely around in the Periscope days, trying to make me laugh with weird and sometimes inappropriate jokes. But yeah, you've definitely been around a long time. Yeah, also about the cosmetology thing, I recently got an email. I get a lot of spam emails like, we want you to come talk at this random conference that has nothing to do with you. And I got an email recently that was like, dear Dr. Deanna Hooper. And I'm like, okay, this is spam. And the email was asking me to come speak at a cosmetology conference based on my clear expertise in this topic. And yeah, that was very funny. I have a screenshot of that one because of all the spam emails. That's the one that amused me the most, because I frequently get asked about cosmetology. Comment from Angela. We get to see the very excited green Deanna. I don't think that's in any of the clips I have today. Well, there's a different excited green Deanna, but not the one. Actually, yes, you will. Yes, you will. Scratch that. Yes, you will. That's coming up. There was a very specific outfit that, for some reason, whenever I wore that, I was super hyped on the streams. I don't know why, but it was just like, if I'm wearing the green hoodie, I am hyped. Do we get to see goth phase, Deanna? No. My goth phase was my teenage years. Yeah, kind of. No, my goth days were before I became a professional scientist. I do still slip into that some weekends, especially if I'm going somewhere fun, like the goth clothes come back out, especially some of my my recent outfits. But no, the good thing is, when searching for these old streams, I also went down a rabbit hole of old photos, and I found a lot of photos of me in my teenage years, and I'm like, oh god, dear god, what was wrong with me? But also, I had amazing dress sense, and I kind of miss my floor-length leather jacket, to be honest. But you will not be seeing that in this live stream. I am not putting, like, here's me as a 17-year-old wearing a floor-length leather jacket. It's a lovely jacket, though. So question from Perth. Is cosmography also a thing? And if so, how is it different from cosmology? Cosmography is a thing. It's not really... Cosmography is more about kind of doing architectural history of archaeological history of the universe. So it's kind of the study of the history of the universe specifically, rather than the universe as a whole. And there are some different things that we use, for example, cosmic clocks, like how fast the clocks tick in the universe, which we can measure based on some stars that emit light at specific ways. And then you would say you're doing cosmography. So I would argue that cosmography is a subfield of cosmology, whereas cosmology is the broader topic. Your photos, yeah, you definitely have photos of goth me. Of course you do. Yes. For anyone not aware, Ange in the comments is my mother. Of course, she has photos of me in my goth days, and also probably in the days when I was wearing a bright red dress and white trainers, for reasons that I still don't understand. But hey, it was cool outfit. Anyway, we've done 2015. Let's move on to 2016, and I promise I'm not going to spend 45 minutes on each of the 10 years of history, because otherwise we're going to be here a long time. Okay, 2016. 2016, we got a very, very, very big announcement. So at the time, I was working on dark matter, this weird type of matter that interacts gravitationally but doesn't interact electromagnetically. I was working on dark matter and obviously the cosmic microwave background radiation. This is what I worked on throughout my PhD and my master's. And then in my first postdoc, I kind of shifted more towards dark matter connected with particle cosmology, so more on the theoretical side of things. And now I work on gravitational waves. But something happened in 2016. We got the first measurement ever, the first direct measurement ever of gravitational waves. This had been kind of unofficially, like, we knew it was coming, but there was the announcement called, and in the official announcement on the 11th of February 2016, they opened with, ladies and gentlemen, we have found gravitational waves. And I watched the announcement in my office, and then I left the office and immediately opened up Periscope and did a live stream. And I'm gonna show you a clip from that live stream. And what is the timestamp? Okay, yes. Let us go to this one here. I'm going to show you a clip of that live stream. As a warning, I'm talking a bit quickly in this live stream, and again, it's just going to take me a minute to jump there. Okay. I really should have added a loading screen at the beginning as well, but I didn't expect to need it until I tried this just before going live. Okay, here we go. Hello, everybody. So this is just going to be a really, really quick scope, just as an announcement. So I'm sure you've all heard by now. We've discovered gravitational waves. It's now a thing. Einstein's general theory of relativity predicted gravitational waves over 100 years ago, nearly 100 years ago, and we have now detected gravitational waves. We are now in an era of physics where we know that gravitational waves are here. We know that gravitational waves are a thing. So that stream was actually 20 minutes long, and throughout most of it, it's just me saying, it's amazing. We found gravitational waves. I'll do a full stream about it. This is a short one. We found gravitational waves. And I was so hyped. And it's just 20 minutes. I just showed you 10 seconds of it, but it is 20 minutes of that. It is 20 minutes of me being like, new era of physics, gravitational waves. And it's very interesting because I have this recording, obviously. Fast forward to 2021, I was in the usual thing, like I was finishing up I was halfway through my postdoc in Brussels. I was applying for the next postdoc. And I went through the application phase, I went through the interviews, and then I had multiple offers. And at one point, I was considering three options for my postdoc. One of them would have been working on dark matter. One of them would have been working on a next generation cosmic microwave background experiment and joining one of the ongoing CMB missions. And the third one that I was considering was moving to Helsinki to work on gravitational waves. And of course, I had my whole like tables of pros and cons and everything, and I was figuring out what to do. And the Helsinki offer won for a lot of reasons, but I was questioning: should I change topic? Is it smart to change topic? Do I want to work on gravitational waves? And then I rewatched that clip, and I rewatched a clip of just how excited I was when gravitational waves were found. And sure, I love the CMB. I'm hyped about the CMB every day, but that was my first reaction to gravitational wave announcement, and I captured that with the live stream. So I watched that clip and I was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I do want to work on gravitational waves. For that and many other reasons, I took the job in Helsinki, and I have never for once regretted that decision. It was the best decision I've ever made. Moving to Helsinki was the best choice. The position was great, the research is great, and I get to work on gravitational waves. And I think if you take me from that clip in 2016 and tell that person, in 9 years you'll be working on gravitational waves, I don't think they would have believed it. I don't think young Diana would have believed that. But here I am now working on gravitational waves, and it's very fun to me that clip is one that I can go back and say, like, that clip, seeing my live reaction to this, helped me decide that this is the topic I should be working on. I did not assume that I would learn Finnish quickly. To be fair, every time I've moved country many times, this is my 6th country, and I've picked up the language in most places that I've been. The one I struggled the most with was German, but now my German's pretty decent. I'm like B2 of German, though it's a bit rusty. French I picked up pretty quickly. Finnish is a whole other beast. I have been here 4 years and I still feel like sometimes I know some things of Finnish, and then a Finn talks to me, I'm like, no, I know nothing. I know nothing of Finnish. I have 5 words that I can rely on, and the rest is like, I rehearsed it in my mind, but I can't say it out loud. I'm scared. But no, the language has actually never been a concern for me when moving country, because I can learn, I can figure it out. The pros and cons are usually about kind of the way of living. In terms of the non-research one, in terms of the research, there's obviously like the research group, the topic, the job opportunities, the opportunities to network with other people, things like that. But in terms of the personal ones, it's like, is this a place I want to live? What's the quality of life like? What's the salary versus quality of life? Is this a place where I will be happy? And the language has honestly never factored into it. So at this time, when I had the 3 offers, 2 of them would have been English-speaking countries, and the other was Finland. The language was not a factor. It was not on my pros and cons sheet. It was not even a consideration for me. Like, if I need it, I'll learn it. But because science is done predominantly in English, it means that at least for the job, the language isn't really a barrier. Is comment from Prathia. Is that stream posted somewhere in full? It is not yet, but I think it's a nice stream to have, and I might actually re-upload that one to YouTube, because I think it's fun to see me just being hyper about gravitational waves. So I might actually upload that full stream to YouTube. And then there's the comment here where David Dunn is laughing about me saying I was talking quickly. So far, the clips I've shown you, I was still okay with my pace. The next one, that is not going to be the case. But I'm going to go on a digression here. 2016, we've just done the gravitational wave announcement. That was February 2016. Now, that's the year that I started Brain Teaser Wednesday. So as I mentioned earlier, in the early days, there was a separate Cup of Cosmology blogspot. It's the one you can see here. It was cupofcosmology.blogspot.com. That URL will still exist, by the way. You can still go check it out. It's just since moved home to cupofcosmology.com, but the old one is still there as a legacy. So I started Brain Teaser Wednesday, where every Wednesday I'd release a new brain teaser, and everyone had to solve it before Sunday, with the idea that then by the time I did the live stream on Sunday, people would have submitted their solutions and I could announce a solution. And it was super fun. I had people from all over the world participating in my brain teaser contest. And people at work got really into it because on the webpage there was a live table of the top 10 based on like how many brain teasers you solved. You got different points, or each brain teaser was worth a specific amount of points. And I had my ranking. Obviously, the guys at work got super competitive about this, but also there was a bunch of people playing around the world, and I could always advertise it like, "Do you want to see if you can beat some physicists at brain teasers? Join in." That's where, if people were wondering, the conversation that was happening in the comments just now about the blue-eyed monks, that was one of the brain teasers. That was the first 4-star difficulty brain teaser. And I cannot remember exactly how it goes. There's something about you're in a monastery and there are a certain amount of monks who have blue eyes and everyone else has brown eyes. And the monks have taken a vow of silence, so they can't communicate. And at some point, all of the monks with blue eyes need to get up and leave. And the question is, how do they do this without communicating with each other in any way? And there's no mirrors because there's some random rules in this monastery, like they were not allowed to see their own reflection and they were not allowed to talk to each other. So nobody knew what color eyes they had, but they had to figure out who had the blue eyes, and those people had to leave, kind of thing. So that was one of the 4-star brain teasers. And if anyone's curious, these brain teasers have been kept up just as a legacy. So if you go to cupofcosmology.blogspot.com, there is still the Brain Teaser Wednesday, where there are all 35 brain teasers with hints and solutions, but they're behind a spoiler, so you have to click to see the solution. I think I removed the ranking table so that nobody knows now how it ended. I have it saved somewhere. But yeah, if you want to do all 35 brain teasers and then the Christmas special where the winner got the Cup of Cosmology mug, they are still up and running somewhere. But yes, that was a fun time in 2016. The brain teasers got really intense. Now, there was a rule that all of the brain teasers were either my own creation or I had to solve them first before setting them for other people. So I can guarantee that I have also solved all of them. That doesn't mean that I would remember the solution to them today. Comment from David Dunn. As long as you can say cosmic microwave background in Finnish, and there is no problem. Honestly, I have no idea how to say that. And then there's a problem that there's a lot of science words that Finnish just doesn't have. So it borrows from English, but then kind of makes them sound Finnish. So there's sometimes, like, if people in my office are talking about physics in Finnish, I understand what they're talking about because you suddenly hear words like neutrino, and I'm like, okay, I know what a neutrino is. I know what you're talking about. So question from Prathia, where did I get the questions from for the Brain Teaser Wednesday? About half of them were sourced from random places online, and about half of them are my own creation. I think there are there's also the ones that I found online where I would then change some details to make it fit more with the themes I was going for. There's one which is kind of on the nose now, which was very funny at the time, about there's a virus spreading like a pandemic, and you have this test that has a 5% false positive rate. So if you test positive, what are the chances that you actually have the virus, kind of thing? And at the time, it was very funny. And then when COVID hit, I was like, maybe I should remove that brain teaser. But it's still in the archive if you want to go check it out. And that one was my own creation. And there were a few there that were my own creation. You can kind of see from the tone which were mine and which were standard ones that I found. The monk one was one that I found online. It's not mine. It's a classic problem. Okay, so 2016 was big for another reason for me personally, because in 2016 I started my PhD. Now, some of you might remember that I had to defend my master thesis, I live streamed the defense of my master thesis. That was one that I'm not going to share because I realized that I was showing images that I probably shouldn't be showing. So that's not one that I'm going to share, but I actually live streamed my master defense, which means I have a stream when I switch between being a master student and a PhD student. And that stream I start with, this is my first stream as a PhD student. And I'm going to show you a clip from that stream. Now, this was a time where I was getting very confident with my live streams, perhaps too much so, and I hadn't yet figured out a good way of communicating. So we were just joking about me talking fast, and I'm going to play a clip where I'm talking unreasonably fast and talking about a topic that comes up pretty much every live stream since the beginning, and it still comes up pretty much every live stream today. So let's see if I can find this clip. Again, a slight delay at the beginning while I load it up. Oh, I spent so much time making this video with the timing and everything, and then Restream is like, no, back to the beginning. Anyway, here's a clip where, as a warning, I'm talking a bit fast. Somebody said, what are my thoughts on the multiverse? Now, the multiverse is a great topic, and it comes up every single week. So, the idea of the multiverse is that our universe could be one of multiple universes. So we only know of one universe. We only have evidence for the existence of one universe, which is the universe we live in. However, a lot of different models for the universe postulate the existence of other universes. So, for an example, when inflation took place, if inflation took place, inflation is a hypothetical period of rapid expansion that we believe took place in the very, very early universe. And at this time, if different parts of the universe expanded at a different rate, like different bubbles of inflation, it could lead to pocket universes where the laws of physics are slightly different in each universe. So then you could have a universe where the speed of light is slightly different, or a universe where the mass of the electron is slightly different. And this would lead to different physical properties and different physical laws. So this is the idea of the multiverse, that each of these pocket universes has different realities. However, we have no evidence to prove or disprove the idea of the multiverse. I think I stand by that explanation, but that was fast. And also, blonde hair, why? Yes, I refound that and I was like, who is this person? Just fun side fact, that was kind of the days before I realized I was non-binary and when I was still like performing femininity or performing this ideal of I need to look like a woman. Hence random blonde hair with side parting. Neither of that is ever happening again. Anyway, rapid expansion requires rapid speech, indeed. Some of you might remember that then that became the theme throughout 2016, 2017. And I'd often say, well, if you can't keep up, just watch the replay and listen, or, think faster. And that was nonsense. That was completely wrong of me. I've since slowed down my pace considerably, which has also been great when doing public speeches because I always try to speak slower, especially because I know that I have the advantage that I'm a native speaker and not everyone I interact with at work is a native speaker. So it is very easy for me to talk quickly, and I know that my British accent lets me get away with it, but I shouldn't speak so quickly. And now I've slowed down considerably in my live streams and also in real life when talking to people. But this is also one of the reasons why a lot of these old live streams are not uploaded to YouTube, because I don't necessarily like the way I was doing science outreach at the time. It's been a journey, but I think I was speaking too quickly in a lot of those live streams. And I was often dismissive of criticism against me talking quickly, like, is this you problem? No, it wasn't. So it's been a learning curve, It's good to reflect on the journey that's brought me here. Question from Prathia, why was I talking about inflation like it's a hypothetical thing? I thought it was confirmed. Excellent question. So inflation is this idea that the universe experienced exponential expansion, grew dramatically. Now, we have a lot of things for which inflation is the best explanation we have, but we don't have any direct evidence of inflation. It is the best model we have to explain why the universe looks the way it does, but we don't have any direct proof of inflation. And one thing that could help serve as kind of direct proof of inflation is finding the ripples in the fabric of the cosmos left by inflation, which would be primordial gravitational waves. which we're hoping to find in the future with missions like LISA, the Laser Interferometer Space Antenna, which is what I work on now, which is a mission looking for gravitational waves from the early universe and gravitational waves from things like supermassive black holes smashing together. So because we don't have this kind of piece of evidence that is a prediction that we have from inflation, we don't really say that it's confirmed. But also in science, we rarely say that things are confirmed. Like, we have our theories, we have our models, we have our hypothesis. We rarely say this is a fact, this is confirmed. It's like, this is the best description we have, this is the best model we have. Inflation for now is the best model we have to explain why the universe is flat, why the universe appears to be at the same temperature wherever you look, why there are no magnetic monopoles, and why the cosmic microwave background radiation looks the way it does. But there are other models as well. And because we haven't yet found one of the key predictions of inflation, which are these primordial gravitational waves, it's perhaps not as solidified as we might like it to be. So especially when I did that live stream, I had just been working on inflation. This was kind of around the time when I was still believing in the inflationary model that I was working on before I then killed my own model. It's fun. Like, the fact that I'm the person who wrote the statement in the blank paper saying we therefore exclude this model, and then killed my own project for my master thesis, I'm still not over that. It's been years and I'm still not over that. That's how science works. Sometimes you end up being the author of your own demise. And in this case, the demise of your own authorship. Yes. Anyway, so inflation is not kind of confirmed. It's not at the same level as, for example, general relativity or a standard model of cosmology, for which we have more evidence supporting it. So while inflation is the best explanation we have, it is not necessarily confirmed yet. Maybe when we get more data. But I also always add this caveat, because one of the first conferences I went to, actually not long before I did that video, I was at a conference where an argument broke out because someone presented inflation and described it as the theory of inflation. And someone in the audience, at academic conferences, there's always the people in the audience who are like, I have a comment, not a question. And then they will say the most ridiculous thing, just kind of like, look at me, I'm so smart. Every academic conference, every academic seminar, there are people like that in the audience who just like the sound of their own voice and they're like, oh, I think what you did is wrong. And here's what... As you can tell, I have no patience with people like that. But I was at this conference which dealt with, among other things, inflation. And the speaker who was given the summary of inflation, kind of the lecture opening talk about inflation, called it the theory of inflation. And this guy in the audience was like, why do you call it a theory and not a model? He's like, really? Really? And that led to a whole debate, because it turned out that everyone in the room had an opinion on that topic and were not afraid to voice said opinion. I was sat in the back as a master student about to finish my master thesis, like, is this what I'm getting into? Yes, it turns out that is exactly a fair reflection of every scientific conference I've ever been to. They're all like that. There are lovely people at conferences, and then there are opinionated physicists or opinionated scientists who think they know better. So anyway, that's why I was talking about inflation in terms of if inflation happened, because, I don't want to upset people. So, very good question there, Prath. Okay, 2016, that was my first live stream as a PhD student. And then I moved house at some point after starting my PhD. I had a good setup. It was still a bit sketchy, but I actually had a good setup. And I'm going to play a clip, mainly because it is the last live stream I have before the dark ages, the dark days where I have missing footage. So I'm going to play another clip. This is from 22nd of January 2017. So this was already into into the third year of the live streams. I'm going to play another clip, which I also think is just very, very funny. And then I'll tell you why it's very funny and why I'm amused. And again, a completely different look, because we cannot have two streams consecutive with the same image. Okay, clip 6, and I need to go to that minute. Okay, let's play one more clip from these. Should be kind of around here. Now, why is the universe accelerating? The universe is accelerating, we believe, due to something known as dark energy. So there are a lot of different models of dark energy. Some people call it a cosmological constant, some people call it a fifth force. But most of the evidence points towards another type of energy, which accounts for 75% the energy density of the observable universe. And this is pushing everything outwards. So we believe that dark energy is driving the accelerated expansion of the universe. Now, for some reason, when I was doing those live streams in that house in Aachen, that was the third out of fourth place I lived in Aachen. My 5 years in Aachen were very eventful. People loved the chair, like that orange chair. People loved it, and every week I was getting comments about the random orange chair. And it's a default IKEA desk chair. And fun fact, it's exactly the same chair I have now, except this one's black. And I have not received a single comment about this black chair. But the orange one, every week, people were asking me about the orange chair. And I was just like, it's a default IKEA chair. Why is my orange chair getting so much attention? Also, as you can see, that was the time when I was still very hyper on my stream, still talking quickly and moving constantly. Like in that stream, I'm like, cannot stay still, must move, which has also calmed down a bit. Now, I guess that's a fair reflection of my overall anxiety levels calming down over the years. The only profession where there is no debate is religion. I don't know. I know some theologists, and I'm pretty sure they have a lot of healthy debates and sometimes unhealthy debates in their field as well. You know, it's going to happen if you have people who spend years studying a topic. They're going to become opinionated, and everyone has their favorite theories and models, and there's always going to be heated debates. And part of the fun of conferences is having these conversations respectfully, but sometimes it becomes less respectful. And I have had issues at conferences with people, especially because there is a thing that if you are a female presenting person at a scientific conference, especially in the field of physics, which is highly male dominated, a lot of people will talk down to you. A lot of people will not take your presentations as seriously. And I have been harassed at conferences just because people didn't like the way I was presenting things. This is unfortunately the reality of being in a male dominated field. Hopefully that will change someday. But yes. Yeah, so that clip, very good explanation of dark energy, I think. Again, speaking a bit quickly, highly distracting by the chair moving. Also, I love the green turtleneck I'm wearing in that clip. I still have that green turtleneck. Turtlenecks are just a good choice. I've never met someone who doesn't look good in a turtleneck. Just universally, turtlenecks, way to go. That green turtleneck was a favorite of mine. It still is. It doesn't quite fit me anymore, but I still have that green turtleneck because also that hairstyle, that is the only way I would accept my hair being long again. Kind of sleek black. Works much better than the blonde, I have to say. Okay, so now for some reason, all of my footage has disappeared. So from January 2017 until January 2021, I have no footage of my streams. Now, I was still on Periscope at the time. I think what happened is Periscope stopped saving the streams automatically to my device, and I never bothered saving them. And then when I downloaded the Periscope database, I thought I was downloading the live streams. But I think I downloaded a file, like I requested all of my data from Periscope. And for every live stream, I have something called a .tf, which according to Google is a Terraform file. I have no idea what to do with a Terraform file. I do not think it contains a video. I think it just contains the metadata. But honestly, I don't know. Maybe I should figure out how to use a Terraform file. So I know if anyone knows how to extract content from a Terraform file, let me know. It will be my like next holiday project to figure out Terraform, because I have a Terraform file for every single stream I ever did, which is how I know how many I did. But I'm not sure if those Terraform files contain something in the form of an actual video. No idea. Need to look into that. But the point is, between 2017 and 2021, there is no footage. But during that time, I set up a second live stream. I had my own running every Sunday. Sundays has been the consistent thing with Cup of Cosmology throughout the years. I had my live streams going on Sunday, and then I set up another weekly one on Wednesdays, which was my Institute live stream, where I would have a guest come on and Okay, that's better. Just had to clear my throat there. So I set up a second stream called the TTK live streams for the Institute for Theoretical Particle Physics and Cosmology. Theoretische Teilchenphysik und Kosmologie. That was it. That was it. The TTK for short. Yes. So random distraction there. Just yes. Brain jumped somewhere. Right, so I set up this parallel stream, which was the TTK stream every Wednesday, where I would get someone from my university to join and we talk about physics. And it was fun, but it was also exhausting to keep up the 2 live streams every week. Because obviously the live stream is usually 1 hour of active time, and then there's all of the work leading into it, all of the preparation, especially if I'm preparing a topic or finding a guest, finding a co-host. It was a lot of work. And I maintained both my own streams and the TTK live streams throughout the whole of my PhD. And I have no idea how I did that, honestly. In hindsight, that was probably something that contributed to the burnout that I had in those times. Yeah, between 2017 and ending my PhD, I went through a burnout. I went through a nasty breakup. I finished my PhD, and then I moved to Brussels. And we got a new CMB map. There was the 2018 CMB map. I wanted to find the stream of we have a new CMB map, but it's gone. But there was no footage of any of this. But we had the TTK live streams. We had my live streams going every week on both channels. Occasionally I would take a week off, but most weeks pretty consistently throughout my PhD. And the funny thing is, or the fun thing is, when I left the TTK, they tried to keep the TTK Periscope going without me. And it lasted about 2 months. And then they realized how much work went into it and they discontinued it. So the TTK Periscopes did not last long once I had gone, which to me was kind of a, like, yeah, I put a lot of work into that actually. Yeah, they decided when I left that nobody else wanted that responsibility, which is fair. But yes, Cup of Cosmology survived throughout all of that. You know, in 2020, I didn't do as many live streams, and by then it was getting less and less frequent because I had a lot going on. You know, 2020 was a terrible year for everyone. For me, 2020 was terrible for many reasons, one of which is because I became chronically ill, and doing the weekly live streams was just no longer feasible. So in 2020, the streams were heading down, but I was still doing them occasionally. I was still doing it. And then at the end of 2020, December 2020, we got the announcement that Periscope was going to close down. And at that point, I considered stopping Cup of Cosmology. I was like, okay, you know, it's been 5 years. It's been a good run. This is the time to end it. Periscope is closing down. Maybe this is when the live streams close as well. However, in the Periscope days, there were about 6-7 scientists doing this type of thing together, and we became really good friends. I met some of them when I was in the US. You know, I still talk to some of them. We had this kind of band of scientists, and in 2020, when we got the announcement Periscope is closing down, I was like, okay, this is a good time to stop, to rest. But then I got a message from one of the other scientists about a new platform called HAPS, where you could just go in front of your laptop, put on your camera, and live stream. And they had features to bring up images and bring up other guests. And it was everything I needed from a streaming platform. So I checked it out and I was like, I don't like change. I don't want to learn a new platform. But then HAPS put out a challenge. They had frequent challenges, and they had an 8-week challenge of go live at least once a week for 8 weeks, and you get $50 as a starting prize, because HAPS also had an easy way where people could give money to streamers, which was great. It was the time where I actually made the most money out of my outreach was in the HAPS days. Not that I expect to make money out of this, but yeah, this 8-week challenge was a good incentive for me to actually, you know, get back into it. Like, okay, I'll do it for 8 weeks. And once the inertia's there, it keeps going. A question from Prath of how large my Terraform files are. Honestly, that is a great question. And that is a question I should have checked the answer to. I didn't. Somehow I spent the last couple of days like, what's in these Terraform files? And I thought this afternoon, I should check. But that meant getting my hard drive back out, because by then I'd already copied the ones that I wanted for the videos. And I was like, I'll figure it out. So yeah, no idea how big my Terraform files are. But that is a very obvious thing to check. I should check that. Okay, so I want to play one of the first streams that I did on HAPS, and now is when the quality starts improving. I now actually go from being, look, I have a phone, to I have a setup. I actually kind of know what I'm doing. So I'm going to play a clip from the 31st of January 2021. It is the third stream I did on HAPS. The first two, I don't want to share. For one of them was kind of weird. I was still figuring things out. And as you might notice, I'm only sharing clips that include only me. I have not contacted any of the guests to ask how they would feel about being featured in the 10-year special. So I'm not showing any streams that featured guests. So I'm going to show you the third stream I did on HAPS, and you'll see the difference in quality. This is when, in my mind, the show went from being amateurish to semi-professional, actually, to this kind of looks good. So this is from 17th of February 2021, and let me bring this up here. It's syncing. Okay. Here we go. So what this, and of course I need to find the right timestamp because this keeps going back to the beginning. Here we go. But just to get things rolling and to start a bit, I want to talk about what is one of the biggest space events happening this week. And of course, I'm talking about the Mars 2020, the Mars landing that we get tomorrow. Tomorrow afternoon, evening, depending where you're based, another rover is going to attempt to land on the surface of Mars. So far, only 4 rovers have been successful at landing on Mars. So far, we've had Sojourner, we've had Opportunity, we've had Spirit, and we've had Curiosity. Tomorrow, Perseverance is going to attempt to become the 5th to land on the surface of Mars. Now, this is a ridiculously difficult mission. Overall, only 40% of Mars surface missions are actually successful. So there's a high chance that things could go wrong, but we're very hopeful that things will actually go right. So the image you can see here on the screen next to me is an artist's rendering of what Perseverance will look like once it's landed on Mars. So HAPS days, I could actually bring up images. I could be in landscape. You could see at the top people were sending me money. It was so cool. I loved the HAPS days. We had a great community. We had these weekly challenges. And the challenges actually led to some of my most enjoyable streams. Hello. That is Otto. Do not go near my CMB ball. Good boy. He's heading off to look for food. But that was Otto, one of my 2 sweet babies. Yes, so the HAPS challenges would frequently be the idea where they give us a keyword and we have to make a whole stream around that word, and then you get featured in the weekly thing. There was no real reward other than honor and pride and satisfaction. Yeah, and they had one that was like Olympics, and that is when I did the Planet Olympics, which is still one of my favorite streams ever, where I relied very much on the fact that this is an interactive show. And I pitted all 8 planets plus Pluto against each other in questions like which has the best weather, on which one would you be able to swim, or which one has the best protection, like which has the coolest name. And you all voted, and we crowned the winner, which somehow ended up being like first place of the Planet Olympics. Well, I'm not going to tell you, actually. Go watch the stream. Otherwise, it's spoilers. I was about to give it away. No. It was not the planet I hoped to win. My favorite planet finished second from bottom. But, it was a democratic event, and everyone decided. And I do not believe that the right winners were chosen, but it was a democratically chosen event. But yes, do check out the Planet Olympics. There was also things like HAPS Water, and I talked about where in the solar system we can find water. There was one that was just space that they put the theme specifically for me. And then I did my favorite 8 space facts, which was very fun. So those were very fun streams. And a lot of the HAPS archive, at least my favorite ones from HAPS, I have re-uploaded to YouTube. So the Planet Olympics, the water one, the space facts, these are available on YouTube. And I loved HAPS. I loved the community. And then at the end of 2021, 1 year into HAPS, they announced that they were going to close down. Like they didn't actually announce it, but we started getting the signs that it was heading out. They made some questionable choices, and we kind of realized that it was heading out. And at that point, end of 2021 is when I figured out that I needed to move to something more durable, which turns out to be YouTube, because YouTube's not going anywhere, knock on wood. So at that point, I did just bite myself accidentally. You'd think that Earth would sweep every category. Well, go check out the video to find out. Also, it's like 2 hours long, so you can just watch the last 10 minutes if you just want to know the final ranking for the planets. So at the end of 2021, when HAPS was starting to kind of give signs that it was going to close down, that's when I decided that I needed to actually rebrand. And I needed to come up with a recognizable logo and format and color scheme and actually have the professional setting that you know and love today. And that is when Cup of Cosmology went from being the name of the blog to the name of the show. So in 2021, end of 2021, I started working behind the scenes to get the logo done, commissioned the friend to do the logo, commissioned someone else to do the soundtrack. There is an official music for Cup of Cosmology, which is what you now hear as the opening when there's the loading screen for this stream. That is now the official Cup of Cosmology theme song. And yeah, that was the time when I was like, okay, this is now Cup of Cosmology. And then it went from being like, hi, this is me rambling about the universe, to welcome to Cup of Cosmology, the place for all your questions about the universe. That is my slogan. That is the thing. And that was fun because I wanted to make a trailer for Cup of Cosmology. And I had never done video editing in my life. So I learned how to do video editing specifically to make a trailer for Cup of Cosmology, and I'm still very proud of this trailer. And I'm not sure if many of you have seen the trailer because it's a thing that appears on YouTube the first time you access my channel and then like never again. So I don't know if people have seen the trailer, which means I need to play the trailer. I'm going to play you the 1 minute, 30-second trailer, which was the official launch, the relaunch of Cup of Cosmology in 2022. And it's a very cool trailer. I have to play this trailer. Okay. And once again, need to find the right timestamp for the trailer. It should be this one. No, go back. That's too far. Okay, I'm gonna put it there. We get the last second of the previous one. Look like once it's landed on Mars. Okay, yeah, back at the right time now. I couldn't get the timing right. Okay, Cup of Cosmology trailer coming up. Hello and welcome to Cup of Cosmology, the place for all your questions about the universe. My name is Diana Hooper. This is an interactive stream. The idea here is that you people can ask me anything you want. What is the universe made of? How old is the universe? What is inside the universe? How do we know? You can still see the afterglow of the Big Bang. This is absolutely incredible precision. This is the most detailed map of the cosmos ever. The question, where in the solar system can we find liquid water? Have we found life in the solar system? Have we found life in the universe? How many planets do you think we found outside of the solar system? Welcome to the first edition of the Planet Olympics. Anything you've ever wanted to know about black holes, about dark matter, about space, time. 5.5 years ago now, we got the first direct measurement ever of gravitational waves. What are gravitational waves? Today is Dark Matter Day. I love the CMB. Gravitational waves are one of the coolest things in the universe. They're absolutely incredible. I have 5 guests with me today, but we're not just stardust. We are actually stardust and universe dust. Yeah, that is absolutely amazing. It's incredible. I will never get over how incredible it is that humans decided this is how we're going to measure gravitational waves. And it works. You know, human beings are these tiny, tiny, tiny specks of carbon all lost on this planet, adrift in the universe. And yet somehow we aren't here. We are studying the universe, we are asking these questions, we are having these conversations. Absolutely amazing. No, I'm still proud of that trailer. That was my first project in video editing. I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to video edit. It has indeed been 4 years since the first Planet Olympics, which means we're overdue for the next edition of the Planet Olympics. Yeah, that is on the list of plans. There's definitely going to be a next edition of the Planet Olympics, and maybe this time I branch out and instead of the usual contenders, we do exoplanets instead, because then we can do like which has the most extreme climate. It's like, oh look, this one rains lava. That would be very fun. But yes, in that trailer, you get to see me in the green hoodie, who apparently the green hoodie me is just super excited about everything. I know. Anyway, I still love that trailer, and I feel like not enough people have seen that trailer, which is why you got to see the trailer now. The good thing is, since that trailer until today, the last 4 years, 3 years, 4 years, the last 4 years, Yes, everything has been on YouTube. So now all of the live streams, all of the videos are on YouTube. Now there's this branded thumbnail, there's the color scheme, there's always the purple, that specific purple, which is my favorite shade of purple, and is also the purple that is from the large-scale structure of the universe. One of the first simulations had a specific purple, and that's the purple for Cup of Cosmology. You never saw the trailer before, Scott. Well, exactly. My regulars never see it, because once you subscribe to the YouTube channel, which you should all do, it doesn't show you the trailer anymore. And I put so much work into that trailer, so I had to show it off. I'm still so proud of that trailer. It's actually the third time I've shown it in a live stream. I showed it when I did the relaunch. I showed it at the 7-year anniversary of Cup of Cosmology, and showing it now again today. Also, when I did the relaunch, apart from the whole branding, obviously I got the logo, the Cup of Cosmology logo, this amazing thing here. And there are still some Easter eggs here that people have not found. There's the obvious ones. There's the CMB, the cosmic microwave background. There's gravitational waves. There's the large-scale structure of the universe. There's some subtle references. And then there's the Easter egg related to the shape of the mug that only about 3 people have found. So, go stare at my logo. This is why I need stickers. I need stickers with my logo, or shirts with my logo, so you can all stare at it and figure out why the shape of the mug is relevant and why there is an Easter egg in the shape of the mug. Only a handful of people found that. And since then, everything's been on YouTube. And there's been another 120 live streams on YouTube. And those are here to stay. Now, unfortunately, when I changed from Periscope to Haps, I lost all the followers on Periscope, all 50,000 of them. When I changed from Haps to YouTube, I lost the 2,000 followers I had on Haps. And YouTube is slow to build up, also because I don't bother doing any of the things I should do to build up an audience on YouTube, which is why I greatly appreciate when people share, like, comment, subscribe, all of the usual YouTube things, because then it recommends my videos to more people, which is always good. Now, technically, what I should do is something that I'll come to later, because that's potentially a spoiler. Okay, so over the last couple of years, Cup of Cosmology has covered some really cool things, and I'm not going to show you clips anymore because the clips are now on YouTube. Go watch the videos. The ones I showed you was like, hey, these are on my hard drive. You don't have access to them. All of the YouTube ones are on YouTube. Go watch them. But just a reminder, kind of the things we've talked about just in the last couple of years. These are all very recent things. Oh, look, the CMB is going to randomly appear again. Whoops. We've had, anytime there has been a fun topic, we've had fun topics. Some of my favorites: general relativity, the first element, neutrino cosmology. The Spooky Space Facts was a Halloween special, and it was all about spooky things in the universe. It is also one of my favorite streams. It's in the highlights. Please go watch that one. If you want to watch any of my previous live streams, I recommend the Planet Olympics and Spooky Space Facts. Because Spooky Space Facts, I made so many Halloween jokes. I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday, and I made so much fun with, hey, look, this is an invisible thing. We can make it spooky. Also, I lost count of how many times I made the joke of nobody can hear you scream in space. Ha ha ha. Anyway, just a snapshot of the type of things you can expect on Cup of Cosmology. Some of these featured guests, some didn't. Also, anytime there's been any news in cosmology, you've got it here on Cup of Cosmology. We've done news anytime there's new results, anytime there's new data, anytime there's upcoming missions, anytime there's a paper that I think is overly interesting. These are all thumbnails from videos that are on YouTube. If I knew how YouTube worked properly, I would make all of them clickable, so you could click directly to the video. I'm going to figure out how to do that someday. Not today. And of course, one of my favorite things to talk about, which is not directly cosmology, but mostly cosmology, is all of the new space missions. We have talked about Euclid, we have talked about DISY, we have talked about the Rubin Observatory. There's also a stream about DES. There have been streams about JWST. There have obviously been streams about CMB missions and the Mars lander, as you just saw. So, Cup of Cosmology is the place for all your questions about the universe, but also it's a place for all of your news about the universe. All of your news about cosmology, this is the place to come. Just advertising my show, not that I need to advertise it to you all, because you all have been here for a long time, so you all know what is happening. And it's been a long journey. It's been 10 years since my first live stream. It's seen me through my master's, my PhD, my move to Brussels and my postdoc there, my move to Helsinki and my postdoc here. And still, after 10 years, you are all tuning in. I expected that I would have ran out of things to say. Apparently, I'm never done talking. I thought you all would have ran out of interest in listening to me. And yet here we are, 10 years down the line, 360 streams-ish, 60 guests-ish, approx. And we are still here. Cup of Cosmology is still going. There have been a couple months break. As you know, especially the last few months have been weeks where I've been like, oh, I'll be back in 4 or 5 weeks because life gets in the way. But somehow, Cup of Cosmology is this constant throughout master's, PhD, throughout many different research topics for me personally. 2 relationships, 3 countries later, cats, and still throughout all of these life changes, Cup of Cosmology has been a constant for me, and for apparently a lot of you as well. The timing. It's always been Sunday. The time has changed, but it's always been Sunday. And your Sunday science is still happening, and this to me is amazing. So to everyone who's been here, if you've been here for 10 minutes, if you've been here for 10 years or anything in between, thank you, because Cup of Cosmology exists because of you, because of the fans. I can do the K-pop Demon Hunters for the fans. Please watch K-pop Demon Hunters if you have not done so. Then you'll get my random reference to the fans. But yes, the fans, the viewers, the people who come and ask questions, who send me cool questions. Some of the questions you all have asked me have been so intense that I've had to go discuss them with my research colleagues. Like one of my all-time favorites of, if you took all the mass of the universe and condensed it into a black hole, how big would the resulting black hole be? And fun fact, you pull out the size of the observable universe, which means the universe is the size of a black hole of the same mass. Fun. Also questions like, how does time work in white dwarfs? In white holes. Do white holes attract or repel? What's going on there? Questions about holography and are we living in a simulation? All of these fun questions, have made me go out and ask colleagues, like, what is happening here? I've also had guests on the show specifically to answer some questions that people have had here. There's still a question about quark confinement that is on my long-term plan of I need to find someone who's happy to talk about quark confinement because I don't want to do that. Yes, as David Dunn is saying, Cup of Cosmology has been my cosmological constant. But is it driving the accelerated expansion of the universe? It is expanding our knowledge. Cup of Cosmology is my cosmological constant, my own personal cosmological constant. And I want to show you one final clip, which is from YouTube. And it's from 3 years ago, almost exactly 3 years. And it's when I did the 7-year celebration of Cup of Cosmology. And I didn't talk about it at the time, but one of the reasons I did that 7-year celebration is because I was, again, thinking, do I want to keep doing this? Is 7 years is a long time, right? And I did a special stream, which apparently was 2 weeks off because I misremembered the date of my first live stream. But I did this special 7 years of Cup of Cosmology live stream. And I want to play you a clip from there because I think I stand by everything said there. Why say it again when I already said it well there? And I also want to show you how I closed out that one, and then we're going to come back to that. So final clip that I'm playing today is from a stream that is on YouTube, done on the 31st of August 3 years ago, and it is from the 7-year anniversary. And again, let me just find the correct timing, but last time I need to do this, and it should be kind of around here. So yeah, 290 streams, hundreds of views, and thousands of subscribers across the different platforms that have then been lost gradually as I move platform. Please subscribe if you haven't done so. But as always, Cup of Cosmology would not be here without everyone watching, without everyone coming in every week, asking me questions, keeping me going, sending me questions on Twitter, tagging me on Twitter in random science things. This is why the show is still here, because of everyone who's tuned in, because of the audience. So if you've watched any of Cup of Cosmology, if you're here for the first time today, thank you, really thank you, because I did not expect this journey to go so far. I did not expect to be almost 300 streams in, 7 years down the road, still tuning in weekly, still enjoying this, and still finding new topics to talk to people about. It's been emotional. It's been a fun journey. It's been a fun journey, and I don't know how long Cup of Cosmology will continue, but I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. And maybe in a few years, we'll be celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Cup of Cosmology. No idea what country I'll be in then. Hopefully, I'll still be here, but we'll see. I love that in that stream. I was like, maybe in 3 years, we'll do the 10-year. We'll see. We'll see what country I'm in. Maybe I'm here, maybe I'm not. And guess what? Here we are, 10-year anniversary. And I'm still in Finland. So that worked out. That worked out pretty well. Also, on that note, I have some positive news to share, which I haven't yet announced on the live stream. I recently signed a new contract, partly because of a grant that I got, which I did announce last year, and partly because I did a good job with the data center that I've been managing for the last year, and they want to keep me on for the data center. But the short version is I've signed a contract for another 2 years, which is one of my longest contracts in academia. Hello, Otta. One of my longest contracts in academia, 2 years and 3 months. It's actually until the end of 2027. But yeah, I've signed a new contract for another 2 years, 3 months. And I've also applied for permanent residence in Finland. So at the 7-year anniversary, I was like, I'm not sure where Cup of Cosmology will be. I'm not sure where I will be. Well, guess what? We're still here. Cup of Cosmology is still going, and I'm still in Finland. And hopefully in the next stream, which should be in 2 or 3 weeks, I will be able to share another personal announcement that I've been waiting to share since June, but I just need some final things to be worked out before I can actually share it. But yeah, Cup of Cosmology has seen me through many, many, many life changes. And now I'm finally at a point where things are stabilizing for me, knock on wood. And Cup of Cosmology is still here. So the next question, of course, is where do we go from here? 10 years in. Is that a good time to stop? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I love Cup of Cosmology. It is always something that I enjoy doing. Honestly, if it ever feels like an obligation, I just skip it. Some weeks when I skip it, it's just because I'm not feeling it. I love Cup of Cosmology, and I have plans. It's been a while since I had guests on. I have 3 guests lined up who keep saying they want to come on. One's a returning guest who I got at the beginning of their PhD, and now they're close to finishing, so I need to get them back on. It's going to be a couple guests coming up. And at some point, I am going to probably venture out into YouTube Shorts and Instagram Shorts, or Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. Now, I've been reluctant to do this in the past because the nature of Cup of Cosmology is it's interactive. I don't have time or energy to do these highly polished streams or tidbits that everyone else does, that a lot of science outreach people do, these highly polished, highly sophisticated videos. I don't have time or energy. The point of Cup of Cosmology is it's interactive, it's me live, it's unprocessed, and you get to ask questions. So then doing short videos, short form videos, doesn't allow for an interactive nature. But my plan there is basically to pull out some of my favorite questions that I don't have time or energy to answer during the live stream and turn those into here's a 90-second explanation. Now, this has been a plan for a while. I just haven't acted on it yet. It is not going to come anytime this year. But in 2026, Cup of Cosmology is probably going to expand in the direction of short form videos as well. Which means make sure you follow the YouTube account, and also Cup of Cosmology is on Instagram. Now, in the past, I haven't advertised this because it's just been a placeholder. But also the Mastodon account, the Fediverse account that I've been using for science outreach was closed down last month with not much warning, and I haven't relocated that. So for updates on Cup of Cosmology, follow the Instagram page, follow the YouTube page. And at some point next year, you can expect the short form videos to appear as well as companions to the live streams. Okay, an hour and 40 minutes. There was a time where I would keep these at an hour. Yeah, an hour and 40 minutes, 2 weeks in a row. It's been a great journey. I'm so happy that Cup of Cosmology has been here for 10 years, and I cannot wait to see what direction we take the show in the future, because Cup of Cosmology is not going anywhere. Although it is going away for the next 2 weeks, because next week I'm traveling. Where will I be next Sunday? No idea. I'm doing a trip around the Nordics next weekend and a few days. And I'll be traveling, I think it's like 6 trains, a plane, a boat, and stuff like that. So I'll be somewhere in the Nordics next weekend, so I will not be doing a live stream. And then on the 31st, I'm probably not doing a live stream because there are 3 events in my calendar, but I'm not sure what time any of them are happening. And I'm not sure if I'm going to all of them. But I think it's quite likely that I will be doing 3 events back to back that Sunday, because there might be a farewell dinner, there's a dance party I may or may not go to, and there's a arts and crafts market that I'll be at for 2 days. Anyway, next stream on the 7th of September. September 7th should be the next Cup of Cosmology, when, as I said, hopefully I'll have a small announcement for you. We shall see. But yes, Cup of Cosmology should be back in 2 weeks, same time as always. That's 8 p.m. in Finland, 7 p.m. if you're in mainland Europe, 1 p.m. if you're on the east coast of the US, 10 a.m. if you're on the west coast of the US. As always, there is a time zone converter on cupofcosmology.com where you can figure out when the next live stream is in your own time zone. To anyone who's been here for 5 minutes, for 5 years, for 10 years, however long you've been here, thank you. Genuinely, thank you. I'm really glad to have you all here. I'm glad you've all joined me on this journey, and I hope you'll all continue joining me on this journey as we go forward. Who knows, maybe in 10 years, we can do the 20-year anniversary of Cup of Cosmology. Let's see. So thank you, everyone, genuinely, for keeping me going throughout this, for being my cosmological constants, and for helping the show be what it is. Do not bite my monitor. He's decided I'm not paying enough attention to him. This is Otto again. So he's pretending to bite my monitor. He never actually bites it. He just pretends to, because it gets a reaction every time. Okay, so thank you, everyone, for joining today and over the last few years as well. Cup of Cosmology will be back online on the 31st. Sorry, not on the 31st, on the 7th of September, 3 weeks from now. It's taking a 2-week break. Cup of Cosmology should be back on the 7th of September. I hope to see you all again then. And I hope in the meantime, you'll stay curious and take care of each other.